Hey, hey, hey. Welcome
Heyo.
to episode 74 of Michigan Brews. We're going to be talking about packaging today. So exciting. Bottling and kegging and all the other things.
I thought we were talking about packages,
Oh,
which
I'm
is why
sorry,
I'm wearing a
man.
Speedo.
Damn, I'm so
Ah,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay.
that's for the after show.
Yeah. We're happy to have you here anyway. You're a knowledgeable guy. For those listening on the podcast later, Jason's not with us tonight, but we have Tim Wickland, the head of the Lager Boys division of the Keepers of Craft Homebrew Club.
Yep.
Vice president of the club, president of the Lager Boys.
Yep. I just made it happen because I was so enthusiastic about it. Now it's a thing. So
what we Tim, I don't know if have you been on the show with us before?
I have not. I've commented
Awesome.
many times. This is my virgin journey with you guys.
Wow.
Well,
all right.
Well, welcome. What are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking a Doppelbock that I made. It's called Burninator after Trogdor. So, but it's pretty good.
If you had to give that beer a score on appearance, what was?
Well, I don't know. I would say, I mean, it's still got a little head. It's I got a little chill haze here. Oh, there we go. There's my camera. But I would say probably about a 0.
Yeah,
a 0
totally.
out of 3.
Can you go negative on points? Maybe we'll have to.
We should introduce that. We should lobby for that with BJCP.
The Siciliano's homebrew competition score sheets came back today, and a few people had some pretty iffy comments. So
yeah.
Oh, really?
It's tough to get judges. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't blame the competition whatsoever.
Yep.
Just the one person.
But hey, we got medals. You got a silver too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Found it for the silver. Yeah, dude. All right. What do you got, Jordan?
Well, because I'm saving everything on tap right now, and I just did 2 brews today because I'm running low. I'm running with the Oberon.
Nice.
Right now, and then of course to follow it up, the classic.
Oh yeah.
You keep it on ice over there, or are you just gonna kind of drink them quick enough where?
Dude, I'm weird. I don't mind warm beer.
Okay.
I keep the shit in my garage pretty much year round, and I just pull them. I'm a weirdo.
It's a lot cheaper.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah, right. You're not.
I'm frugal. We'll go with that. Yeah, instead of lazy. That's fun. What about you, Brian? What are you drinking?
I'm running low on stuff in the Keyser. I just brewed this weekend a pale ale, but really the only thing that I have left that has like anything worth drawing a full pint of is a Russian Imperial Stout.
Oh,
so
heavy.
Yeah, so that's how we're starting the night over here. It's I think I had it a few shows ago. It's still a little bitter. I don't know if that's ever gonna fade. It was the recipe was designed to go into a barrel.
Is that the rest that you gave me a bottle of before? Okay,
maybe, probably.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that barrel. We gotta talk to Jason to find out when that's gonna be ready because that's gonna be yum-tastic, I think.
You bottled off a couple of those.
Yes, I did. I thought I was trying to set up where any of us that bottled off just from our batch, we'd bring them and we'd share them. But Jason wants to hold off and have everybody over at his place and have a cookout. Oh. And he wants us to bust those out then.
Damn.
So we can taste them all and then taste the blend before it went in the barrel because he bottled off a couple of the blend and then he's been bottling one off every month, I think.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So pretty cool experiment.
Well, the title of the show, packaging. So I was making some notes before the show and trying to figure out exactly how we wanted to start. Tim, you had said in your comment to me to be on the show that you've gone through some iterations.
Yes. Yep.
So how did you start like bottling or packaging or whatever?
I think like anybody, I started out with just individual bottles with measuring a little bit of priming sugar and throwing them in there and just letting them bottle condition. That got old quick, so I went into kegging. But that was a steep learning curve for me. I had a lot of oxidized beers for a long time. And so I've really dialed in my kegging process now, I think. But now that I've been doing more competitions, I've kind of had to start bottling again, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But because it's so easy, like this beer, I just went downstairs and filled up a howler, and then I just have it in the fridge. You know what I mean? It's just so convenient. But yeah, so I keg primarily, but I do bottle off. Sometimes I use a bottling gun. Sometimes I just use priming sugar. It's whatever I have. I mean, I don't know if you guys have a bottling gun, but they're kind of a pain in the butt to use too, because you got to clean them and then use them and clean them and then put them away and everything. It's a process.
Yeah, that's definitely something I want to get into a little bit later in the show, like packaging off the keg and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Jordan, you started out bottling too, right? I think we all, for the most part, pretty much started out bottling. Or did you really go right to kegging? I know you had a keezer early.
Yeah, I did. No, I did go into kegging pretty early. I think I was only bottling for a year, maybe a year and a half, before I decided to jump into kegging. Question for you, Tim. You said you're like measuring off your sugar. Were you like inoculating bottle per bottle for your conditioning?
Sometimes. So when I was doing water with priming sugar, boiling it, cooling it, putting it in a bucket, racking on top, stirring it gently, bottling. That's what I was doing originally. But lately I've been bottling like a 6-pack with conditioning. So I literally have a scale and I'm just putting in however many grams of sugar per bottle.
Wow.
0.13 grams or something.
Yeah, I mean I've got scales, but then also I've used those carbonation tablets before, like the little sugar tabs. Yeah. But I found that they leave a sludge in the bottom of my bottle. And, at Homebrew Beer Cup last year, I turned in a Czech Pilsner where I use those tablets. And that was a comment I got on the sheet. And then I talked to someone from KGB on Saturday night, so I don't remember the conversation very well. But of Michigan Homebrew Fest, and he was like, "Oh yeah, did you use those tablets?" And we talked about it. So I'm done with those things, like unless I absolutely have to use them.
I've never used those before. Yeah. The reason I've never used them. So for those that don't know me, when I start to do something, I like fixate and I read all about it, and I become like in my mind like as much of an expert as I can before I even start doing something, because I hate getting things wrong. And I hate wasting money. And so even before I started brewing my own my first beer, I was like, I don't think I'm going to use carbonation tablets, because you can't control, like the weight. You can't measure out exactly how much is in a tablet. I mean, you can shave stuff off the tablet or whatever, but like,
but that's a lot of work.
You can't control your carbonation if you're just dropping tablets in.
That's because Brian is such a perfectionist. He'll be like, "Oh, this is supposed to be 2.3 volumes, not 2.5." Well,
he probably wanted it more carbonated.
Probably. He'll go to throw 1.5 tablets in every bottle.
I showed Tim this on my Siciliano score sheet today. One of the comments from one of the judges overall was, "Could use more carbonation." I'm like, son of a bitch.
What?
Like, I know. I'm like,
isn't that something I would expect from you?
I know. But let's talk about like bottling first. Maybe some of the advantages, disadvantages, and then we can move on to kegging. Maybe some of the advantages, disadvantages there. And then like packaging for competitions, like bottling off of the keezer and stuff like that, different tools for that. I don't know. So
sounds good.
I mean, obviously bottling is the way that most people are going to start. I was so fed up with bottling, I think after like my third batch, that I moved right into kegging. And the only reason I did that is because I knew Jordan here, who already had a keezer, and my friend Mike Burns, who already had a keezer. And it was a daunting task, but
I think Burns jumped into kegging before I did. Even
he did. His dad helped him build one, I think.
Yeah,
but so besides it being so much, so much of an entry level, easy way to get started carbonating beer, what do you guys think are some other like advantages of using bottles to start with? Like, Tim, do you have any for those like 6 bottles that you bottle right off of your batch? Do you notice Any differences, good or bad?
Oh yeah. So
Those bottles?
I mean, I can perceive a difference between a forced carb beer and a naturally carbonated beer. In my opinion, and it could be totally wrong, and might be able to set a triangle test in front of me, and I would totally blow it.
Yeah.
But it just feels like naturally carb beers have like almost like smaller bubbles, like not like nitro, but like it's more of a, I don't know, the finish is a little different on it. Which, I mean, you guys have had Firkin beers, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and that's carved in the keg, you know,
Mhm.
naturally, and that has a little bit of a different finish to it. So that's one thing I noticed.
And do you think that's like a good thing or a bad thing, or maybe like style to style?
I think
You
it's
give a
thing.
preference? Okay.
No,
thing.
it's just
Yeah.
it's just a thing. I mean, I think I'd probably prefer it in like a brute or something,
Mhm.
like a brute IPA, something you want to be really clean. I mean, I brew mostly lagers. People probably can't tell, but you know, I do those for the most part, and those tend to be clean beers too, so it's fine. But like this one right here was forced carb, and I think it's delicious. So
Mhm.
I got no qualms. You know,
I know there's people in the I don't know. There's so many like little different communities in homebrewing, but there's a faction of homebrewers that bottle condition like their saisons and their like farmhouse ales and wild ales and stuff like that because they feel like the foam is like far better afterwards. And so I think it would make sense if it had like a finer foam that produced more like rocky head or something like that. That you see those pictures where it's just like it looks like a big thing of soap. It's like right on top of the beer glass and just like doesn't go away.
Yeah. So actually, there's a brewery over in Union Pier, which is kind of between New Buffalo and Sawyer. So right in Berrien County on the corner there, called Seeds, and they do Czech style beers. And when they pour a beer, it's got this giant like foam, but it's like almost like cream on top. And I'm pretty sure he naturally carbs all their beers in their unit tanks.
Like he spuns. Oh, okay, yeah, cool.
I think they do, and I mean, he makes good beer too, so it doesn't hurt. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they do. I went to a brewery in Denver recently that they had a beer called 8-minute pills because it took 8 minutes to pour it.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like Bierstadt Lager House or something in Denver. So
is it just because it's like a slow pour that like
it was just because it just had that crazy thick foamy head, just like what you were kind of talking about.
And they would have to pour it in like over time.
Just pour it, and they were using like kind of like Pilsner flute style glasses and stuff. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. But I was halfway done with my pint of Helles before Connie even got her beer.
Jeez. Well, it's cool.
That's cool.
So potentially better head. There's obviously the cost associated with bottling. I mean, bottling's cheap, right? I mean, a case of empty bottles is like maybe $15, depending on where you get it from. To bottle condition, all you need is like table sugar, a capping. Wing capper is,
caps are cheap.
Under $20. Caps are super cheap.
Yeah.
So the cost is definitely there. I think my kegging setup was like, I mean, if you include all of the hardware and the freezer and everything for the very first buy, at least $1,000.
Oh yeah. I mean,
so
you find cheap kegs and they're still $30 or $35. I mean, that's you can buy 3 cases of bottles for that.
Yep.
There's also a little bit of like oxygen scavenging that happens when you bottle condition as well, right? Because the yeast tend to scavenge that at least a little bit as they ferment and maybe reproduce just a little bit and do their thing. So probably not enough for something like a New England IPA, and that's like one particular style I want to go into later as well. But probably enough to like prevent oxidation in like most lagers or
I would agree.
Malt forward styles or something like that. You think? Whereas if you're bottling a beer right off of a keg, you sort of have to purge the bottle with CO2 first, get the beer in there a little slowly so it's not foaming up all over the place. It was all sorts of tips and tricks and equipment that we can talk about, when we talk about kegging and stuff like that. But
yeah, I would say your if you bottle condition, you've got a larger margin of error because, like you said, they do scavenge for oxygen, so oxidation is as much of a problem when you're bottling and you've got the yeast still working.
If you already are bottling off of something that has a spigot. So the second issue, and the real big issue I think that most people run into when they bottle, if they're only bottling, is that they're usually not fermenting in the same vessel that they're bottling out of. So you're taking your beer out of your primary fermenter, you're racking it over into a secondary vessel that has a spigot or something like that, where and that's where you mix in your sugar, because you don't want to stir up your trub and stuff like that into the beer. And that whole process of having the fermenter over, racking it, having it open the entire time you are putting it into bottles, that's all oxygen exposure.
Yeah. No potential. You could purge everything if you had enough CO2. I mean, you're still increasing the risk. But...
Yeah. But I think that, and when we talk about like homebrew flavor a lot, I think that that's probably one of the three major sources of that flavor is like large amounts of oxygen exposure while packaging.
Yeah.
Water quality and fermentation health, I think, are the three big players.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have like temperature control, and
right.
They don't do starters. They just pitch whatever yeast, and so those are probably it. One thing I hate about bottling is it's just messy.
Oh
like
yeah.
When I keg a beer, I can do a closed transfer where I don't spill a single drop of beer. Not a single drop. If I don't do a closed transfer and I use an auto siphon, you still don't spill. Like you might, maybe at the end if you get a little filled up too full and for the keg lid or whatever. But with bottling, it never fails. I always have one where I misjudge the top, and while you're kind of pulling it off your thing, and it like spills everywhere. And then you end up like, well, shit, this one's too full. And you're like pouring a little bit from one and the other one. And then, it's just.
It's messy. I always bottled over a bucket or like a large bowl or something, because you're inevitably going to get some sort of spillover or drippage or whatever.
A lot of people bottle over their dishwasher. They'll like pull the lid forward. And so all the drips and stuff like that just go like into their dishwasher, and then they can just like flip it back up.
If I was allowed to bring my brewing equipment into the kitchen, and
and I don't mean for this to be like the shitting on bottle episode of Michigan, or on bottling episode of Michigan Brews, but just like there's so many disadvantages.
But at the same time, though, like if one of the first things that came to mind when you were asking, like, what are some of the advantages or disadvantages? Like the first thing that came to mind is you're never going to get away from it. Like I started kegging because I was like, fuck bottles. Like I don't want to bottle anymore. And now here I am. I haven't this year turned into competitions, but you always need bottles if you're going to throw competitions in, or if you're going to share beer, send beer back to people.
Yeah.
Like you don't get away from it.
I
probably have more bottles on hand now than when I was actually bottling.
I was just going to say that. Yep, me too. I buy like a case a month at least, probably, just because I'm sending so much beer away or bottling off beer.
Well, when I was bottling in the beginning, I would just like delabel bottles that I bought, like Bell's bottles, Sam Adams bottles. They're always really easy to get the labels off of. And for competitions, everything has to be, you can't have like stamped in logos and stuff.
Right.
So instead of even dinking around with that and worrying about clay on me, I just buy them. And I've bought more bottles probably in the last year than I've never I think I bought some gross style ones when I first started out, that's it.
Yep.
Well, that's even more cost savings too there, buying beer, reusing the bottles, reusing Grolsch bottles or the flip tops. Yeah. No,
that's what I started out with.
there was something else I was going to say too, but I lost my.
I know two more positive things about bottling.
Please, I think we need more positive things.
Yeah. So one thing that I do like about bottling is I think the product stays good longer. So like there's beers that I've kegged before, and like you were talking about New England's earlier, like there's beers I've kegged that after a while you're just like, oh, I've got this keg, it's got a gallon left, I'm sick of this beer, you know, and you put it off the side or something, or forget about it or dump it or whatever. With bottles, if I've got a bottle sitting in a box, it's not taking up space, it's just off the side, and sometimes it's kind of fun to pull, like, oh, what's this? And you grab a bottle and it doesn't have anything marked on it, and you pop it and you're like, oh, this is awful. Yeah. Or this is really delicious. What was this? You know, so it's one of those things. So I think bottling is nice because beer, it's easier to store, I think, long term. It lasts longer, stays carved. I mean, yeah, you can run into oxidation after a few years or whatever, but I think that's one good thing about it. And it's, again, if I brought you, I bring beer to my work friends a lot. And my boss, so I'm a teacher, my boss is a principal. He is the worst about getting growlers back to me. So there was a point where he had 7 of my growlers at his house. Oh my God. And I don't really care about the growlers. I care about the caps, because those caps are like $1.50 a piece. And so he had 7 of my caps at his house. I didn't have any caps anymore to bring beer to homebrew meetings. And I'm like, Jesus, well, if I bottle beers off and hand them to him, I don't give a shit what happens to that bottle, you know? Like, okay, cool. Throw it away, recycle, whatever you want to do, you know?
Yep.
So there's 2. Good job, Bottles.
Yeah, good job, man. So, sorry, there was somebody at my door. I think they're leaving. I don't know. So, we've talked about bottling. I don't know. I'm sure we'll come back to it, especially because we need to talk about bottling off of a Keyser and stuff like that. But how long did it take you guys to get into kegging before? How long was just bottling, like, when did you get fed up, I guess?
Immediately.
Yeah.
First time bottling, I'm like, I don't want to do this forever. It's like my back just killed crouching. I mean, I was younger, college kid, whatever, and but still, you spend how long it take, to bottle up 40 beers or so, maybe a half hour or something like that. But and you're hunched over and you're like, is it just right? And no, fuck that. Took me, like I said, probably about a year and a half, and most of that time was bottling beers, maybe 2 years, but bottling beers and hating it every single time while I was saving up money to buy my Keyser equipment.
Yeah. What about you, Tim?
Well, I started out brewing. I started out all grain 1 gallon kits. So,
oh wow.
One of my good friends from high school got me into home brewing, and he recommended Brooklyn Brew Shop because they were kind of set up for people brewing in like apartments and stuff in New York City. And so I started right away with all grain, and I was bottling because I'd get 8 bottles. You know what I mean? And it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And then when I bought a brew pot and started doing 5-gallon batches, I think I made it to batch 3 in 5 gallons before I started kegging. Because same thing with Jordan. I was like, fuck this. Yeah. I mean, I brewed 1-gallon batches for a good solid year before I went up to 5 gallons because I wanted to make sure that I really liked it before I spent a bunch of money. I mean, now it's the amount of equipment I have is ridiculous. But looking back, I was just trying to hedge my bets, kind of like with Jordan, we're talking about how his wife lets him do things or not lets him do things. Kind of similar, like, oh, do I really need to spend $1,000 on brewing equipment? And so, yeah, I made it batch 3 of 5 gallon. I was like, all right, I need to get a keg. And I actually traded. I got an extra, like one of those Johnson Controls things. Yeah, I traded one of those. Ones. Well, no, it was a $40 one. Oh, okay. But I traded Alex from Klob for my first keg. I met him at the Tempo Vino, and trade them for a brand new Bullock.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
That's how I started kegging.
I guess.
Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
No, I was just gonna say, to clear up, because I don't want my wife might tune in. It's not that she just doesn't let me.
Oh yeah.
I made my basement rain once by forgetting the faucet filling up a bucket or something like that once in my townhouse. So it's like, yeah, this is before I owned this place, but yeah. So ever since then, I had boilovers on the stove, and ever since then, it was just like no go in the kitchen. So it's my fault. I could be brewing in the kitchen if I hadn't fucked up, but I did.
Yeah. So just to be clear, also on my end, because my wife might also listen. It's not about what you're allowed to do. It's about being considerate. That's what it's about.
I know Shayna's listening right now. I think her thing is as long as I'm winning medals and making beer she wants to drink. She's very competitive on my behalf. She doesn't like when I lose. So
that explains why she was giving me the side eye when I won Keeper's Cup.
Yeah.
No, she wasn't.
Good. No.
I don't think she was there.
Putting the comment out there. Just we normally ask what everybody in chat is drinking tonight.
There's nobody in chat.
I know. When you're not in chat tonight, so nobody else is talking. So.
Oh, well, where's Brandon? Where's Ron? Come on.
Yeah.
We were talking about head earlier, and I was just like, oh, there we go.
Oh yeah,
that's beautiful.
I love that head.
What is that?
The unofficial keepers.
Oh.
Or Michigan Brews.
Foo?
Yeah.
Ron's here. Foo.
What's Foo?
What is Foo?
Don't know, Ron. We're gonna call him Mule Man because that guy hooks us up with a mule. And
are you being? I can't tell if you're being facetious or not.
What?
F you.
I know. So
okay.
Fuck you. I'm a school teacher, man.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'll be right back.
Sometimes, sometimes those old people.
Thanks for clearing it up, Ron.
Yeah. We got the proper punctuation there.
Yeah.
The teacher appreciates the spacing and the capitalization, I'm sure. Yeah, I think Tim can still hear us. Oh, I think he has his AirPods.
Oh, your Keyser died.
Gerald, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Oh,
what the heck?
Get an F in chat.
Yeah. I'm sorry, dude.
Oh.
Sweet Baby Swirl. I don't even know what that is.
Sounds like a cinnamon IPA or a cinnamon stout made with Sweet Baby Rays.
Kim, where's that IPA from? I don't think I've heard of it before.
Matt Anthony's from Indianapolis, I think.
You're so well versed.
Well, I'm an eloquent son of a bitch like Ron Henning.
So kegging, I think I'm right there with you, Tim. I got into it very early too. In fact, I specifically remember. I'm gonna toot my own horn here. I got into it because I wanted to brew New England IPAs, and I was brewing them before like pretty much any other brewery in Michigan was, like way before Old Nation was. I brought a New England IPA to a keepers meeting. Everybody's like, "What's a New England IPA?" And I didn't want to brew one until I knew that I could package it properly, because everything that I read was like, don't bottle your New England IPAs.
Yeah, oxidation is a big problem with New England's.
I don't know if anybody's ever had an oxidized New England IPA. Probably about half the breweries that serve them right now are probably oxidized. It's like even oh man, but they get sweet. They get papery. The hop flavor kind of fades out. I'm drinking this all day IPA right now, which was packaged on the 29th of December. I bought this thing not realizing it was 4 months old. And even for like a regular IPA that's 4 months old, you can just taste how like not fresh this is. Like it doesn't have, it's not bright anymore. It's just a little sweeter. So But New England IPAs in particular, because of the ingredients they use, like usually a good amount of oats, which are sort of high in magnesium, which has something to do with increasing the rate at which like the beer oxidizes. The hops that they use, it's so dependent on like hop flavor and aroma, and hops are really sensitive to like skunking from light. Not that it has anything to do with packaging, but
Could.
and I mean it could, yeah, it totally could. And oxygen and stuff like that, that it's just a really, really hard style to bottle, and it's very visually apparent, more so than in other styles too, when those go bad. It just, you next
Like
time you have like
muddy
a New England
brown.
IPA, oh totally,
Yeah.
like save the last couple ounces in your glass and just come back to it the next morning, and it's already a completely different
Looks
color.
like chocolate milk. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the issue with bottling those has almost entirely everything to do with getting it into the bottle somehow, getting it into a bottling bucket, then getting it into the bottle, swirling around the sugar water solution a little bit to get that into solution so it actually carbonates after it gets in the bottle. Like everything about those
Well,
about
and
bottling those introduces alcohol. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know about
Or
you,
oxygen.
but when I brew and I don't brew New Englands too much anymore because I have a hard time finishing them before they're while they're still in their prime. But you want to drink that thing as soon as possible. So like when I brew a New England on day 10, I'm kegging that son of a bitch, and then I'm drinking it on day 11. If you bottle condition, you got to wait a week or two for it to carb, and right there you're already on the backside of that sweet spot. You know what I mean? You're already approaching that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I still feel like even when I keg my New Englands, like about a week later, is right when it starts tasting its best. Like I still feel there's something about just letting it settle for just a bit,
yeah.
gets it there. But again, if you're bottling, sometimes that may take 2-3 weeks or a month, or it's all dependent on the yeast in the bottle, which is maybe not necessarily homogeneous from bottle to bottle. The conditions where you're storing your bottles, just the fucking temperance of the yeast itself, like whether it decides that it wants to behave or not. Like, it's literally all we can do is sort of like guide yeast to do what we want it to do. Like at the end of the day, like there's only so much science you can do to
Gentle
be like,
nudges.
come on, yeah.
No, but I'm with you, Brian. Like I feel like most beers, or basically anything that I keg, like even a number of my meads, feel like they benefit from cold conditioning for a while, like a couple weeks at least. And I'm not going to take 40 some odd beers. Like I don't have a dedicated beer fridge where I can just take batches of beer and crash them in the bottles like that. I put it in the keg, put it in my keezer, and then it's cold and it's carbonating, and I just forget about it.
And when you're doing that, all your stuff it goes out of suspension to the bottom, and you pull that off with your first couple pints, and then the rest of your keg is money. Well, every bottle has got a little bit of that, just a little bit at the bottom. You're fighting. So,
you can even go so far as to install a top draw, like device in your keg, so it's pulling right off the top of the keg instead of the bottom. I have a couple of those, and I'll make a lager, and I'm probably pulling off like perfectly clear beer in maybe 3 days max.
wow.
It works really, really well, and it's tasting really clean too. Like I think there's something about the aging process that is also pulling stuff out of solution, which is part of what makes it taste so good. And if you're pulling off the top of the keg, you're really missing out on all the gunk that's leaving solution, and you're just getting that really crisp, delicious beer.
Yep.
Sorry, I need to take a drink.
It's all right. I got another one. I'm drinking Connie's strawberry lemon kolsch.
Oh, nice.
How much do you have left?
There's not much left. I think maybe a growler. It's been kicking around for a while. It's so much different now than when we first packaged it. And actually, there's another. If you want to talk about advantages of kegging,
Let's do it.
flavoring your beer post fermentation.
Oh yeah.
Holy God! Coffee in the
Yep.
keg, yum. Coffee
Really?
beans, dry hop. Oh yeah, that's all my coffee beers. I just put 3 ounces of coffee in a pantyhose. I'm just tie it off a keg lid, and then it's carved, and I just taste it. And when the coffe's money, pull the bag out.
I was gonna ask if you pulled it back out. Okay. Got
Yep.
it.
Yeah, I always pull it out, and then dry hoppy in the keg. But yeah, this
Yep.
we did. She put lemon peel and a little bit of lemon juice in the boil, and then we actually just did strawberry extract right in the keg.
Cool.
And just racked on top of it, and it turned out really well. So, money.
Yeah, I that's not even something I made a note of is flavoring in the keg afterwards, but a lot of people do that. I've never keg hopped before. Is that something you do a lot?
No,
Okay.
I used to. I stopped doing it because of oxidation. So
Yeah. Okay.
I had a real hard time. I would even put the hops in a bag, dip the whole bag in sanitizer, and then put it in a smaller jar and purge it in the jar for a long
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and then purge the dead space in the keg and pop it in there real quick, and then get all the air out, and
Yeah.
then it would still oxidize it. So I don't fuck around with that anymore. But I know David Jones does. If you guys know Brian Vlier, he likes to dry hop in a keg.
Yeah. Yep.
And his beers are never oxidized. So that's just my nemesis is oxidation when it comes to beers. I hate it so much. It happens every time I cut a corner. I oxidize my beer, and I go, "Why'd you do that?" So,
Well,
So
yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
I was gonna say I used to keg or hop in the keg. For a while there, I ran into issues with the CO2 bleeds. So unless you have that special lid for a ball lock that has a little hook on the inside of it, you got to run something to the outside so that way you can pull that stuff out. And there's a gap there. I did. Oh God, I tried fishing line, floss, all sorts of stuff, and even to the point to where I was starting to line the top of my keg with keg jelly or whatever, just to try to figure out where keg lube, where that leak was. I remember I had two beers that I had dry hopped in the keg that I had CO2 sitting on. And I bled a whole new 5-pound thing of CO2 just and I knew I had a leak. I should have just pulled the shit out at the time, but I was bound and determined to figure it out. And no, so ever since then I'm like, okay, well, I probably have oxidized beer now, and I've lost a CO2 5 pounds of CO2, and that was just it. I'm done with it. There's got to be better ways where I can get that flavor in there.
Yeah, I'm so paranoid about oxidation with dry hopping that I dry hop all my beers like the New Englands. I do it at High Carlson, and I know that people say, "Oh, you're hop scrubbing" or whatever, but I don't care because my beer doesn't taste like fucking cardboard. So I'm happy with it.
I honestly can't remember the last time I dry hopped at all. I've found I get similar results just by doing, or more or less inundating it Whirlpool or doing a hop rest, just throw a few extra ounces in at that point, and similar results.
Explain what you mean by hop scrubbing, Tim.
So what the conventional wisdom was that you didn't want to dry hop when yeast was still really active, because the CO2 leaving your fermenter would bring some of the compounds and oils out with it, and you would be basically just wasting money. But I don't even know if that's true, because that's how all these hazy boys that are really popular, they dry hop them at high Krausen, and a lot of them dry hop twice during fermentation.
Yeah, a lot are.
Yeah, the double dry hop action. So maybe that's not really a thing. I don't know. I haven't read anything on it or any studies. I'm sure you have because you're a genius.
I don't know. I'm not. I don't know if there are a lot of studies on that. I don't. I think that studying aroma is probably pretty hard, right? Like I don't know how you would capture
subjective. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't know how you scientifically measure like what is off gassing from a glass of beer.
I mean,
like, I'm sure there's a way, but
yeah, you'd have to capture the gas and run it through some sort of chromatography or something like that. Yeah. Yep.
There's a lot of people, and Tim, you had mentioned this a second ago when purging the headspace of a keg, like filling it, pulling the PRV, filling it, pulling the PRV. There's a lot of people that are like adamantly opposed to that practice, saying that it removes overall aroma from the beer in the end. And I'm just like, I don't see how, right? It's not like,
how much of the volume of that beer is exposed at the very top of the keg? I mean,
yeah,
right. That's exactly why they're a cylinder.
Yeah, exactly.
And anything that's in the headspace, it's not like it's going to dissolve, if it could even, back into the beer. So if it's already in the headspace and it's leaving the keg,
yeah, you're not going to drink it anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's like all sorts of, you go online and you read like these posts and people and their anecdotal evidence and stuff like that. And I mean, that's not to say that they're wrong, but it just seems funky.
Well, I mean, and there's things that we all do because of, like you said, anecdote that,
oh my God, yeah,
that we probably don't have to do. And like when you talk to another home brewer, I mean, like we're gonna have this big brew day thing coming up pretty soon, right? Yeah. One of my my favorite things is just walk around talking to people and like, why are you doing that? And they tell you, and you're like, oh, never consider that. And a lot of times I pick things up, and a lot of times I say, fuck that, I'm not doing it.
Yep.
We'll be at Big Brew Day over at the Rochester Mills production facility on May 21st. And there's going to be I don't know if it's full yet, but there's slots for up to 90 groups of people to brew beer. And I've never done anything that big before, but at our own Keepers Big Brew Days before, just like you said, you go around and not a single person there is brewing the beer in the exact same way. Some people are batch sparging, some people are no sparging, some people have these elaborate setups like David Jones, where he has all these like PVC pipes and shit, and he like sets up a thing to fly sparge. Some people are brewing in like all in one vessel and doing brew in a bag, and some people are, have igloo coolers, and it's just like it's so all over the place. So you
guys are going to the Catalina wort mixer then? Is that what's on the 21st?
No, they call it Big Brew Day. It is not the Big Brew Day that happens on May 7th, but I think it's their version of it, or in the spirit of. They do it a couple of weeks later to draw in more people, maybe. Maybe they assume that like the
weather will be better or something.
Well, or everybody is doing things with their own homebrew club on the 7th, but they want all the homebrew clubs to come together on a day or something.
But it's a big to do. Like I believe there's a raffle, if I recall.
There's a huge raffle.
Giant raffle. It sounds almost like Big Brew Day, or like shit. I'm losing my train of thought. Homebrew Christmas, beer cup. Almost sounds like beer cup, but like single day, and everybody's brewing that day.
Yeah,
that's cool.
They're I can't remember what the big prize is. I think it's a mash and boil. Does that sound right? You guys know what a mash and boil is? It's like one of those all-in-one electric brew systems. So I think it's something like a $500 system. That's like one of the grand prizes for the raffle there, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun, and everybody brews different, and it's going to be crazy. If you have the 21st off, you can come.
Probably not going to make it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let me talk to Connie.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, probably not. I think the fact that I'm getting away this Saturday with you guys is probably about all I can manage for a while.
That's all good, man. So, speaking of, our whole oxidation thing from a couple minutes ago, do you guys do clothes transfers? Or
I do not. I want to, but I don't.
I've done one.
Okay.
And I loved it.
So, let's talk about like what a clothes transfer is, I guess, to start, like why people should care. So, this whole conversation up until this point has been like oxygen fucking sucks. When we make a beer, the fermenter is closed the entire time, unless you take it open the lid and you're taking like hydrometer readings or something like that. But don't do that. Trust yourself. Believe in yourself. Quit opening your lid. You're fucking your beer. So
I mean, that's what gives it that special taste, though. Is fucking your beer.
if you want to like dip your extraneous body parts in your beer and stir it around and stuff,
isn't it? There's such a thing as a late yeast edition, right?
Yeah. If that's your,
it's a different show.
Yeah, just don't let me drink your beer. But so technically, the inside of the fermenter should be pretty much O2 free by the time fermentation is done. Fermentation is producing so much CO2 that it's displacing pretty much all the oxygen in the top of the fermenter, forcing it out through the airlock, and is creating a nice little CO2
anaerobic
area. Yeah. So the idea is that, okay, you have this beer sitting in a CO2 or an O2 free environment. How do I get it into my keg without exposing it to any more O2? When you first start brewing and you first start kegging, you're just going to rack it into a keg. Yeah.
Wow.
We're not drinking Tim's beer good yet. But that's what I did to start, right? You take your racking cane, you give it a few pumps, and you get it into your keg, and maybe you blow some CO2 into there and kind of pull the PRV a couple times and hope for the best. But the entire time your fermenter is open, racking that beer, there's all this oxygen exposure still. There's all of the mixing of air as it goes through the racking cane, and when it like kind of splashes together at the bottom of the keg. And it may not seem like a lot, but for certain styles it really adds up, like IPAs. Even for like Meritzen or something like that, like a little bit of oxygen over the course of 4 months later or something like that can degrade the quality of the beer. So the goal is as little oxygen as possible on the cold side. So for those listening that don't know the difference between cold side and hot side, hot side, if you ever read that, is pretty much anything that happens to your beer before. My definition is before you pitch the yeast.
Yep, that sounds about right.
The cold side is pretty much anything after.
I would say cold side happens after once you're below 170, in my opinion.
Okay,
that's when I tend to like when I'm brewing. That's when I'm being more careful about dipping my spoon in the sanitizer.
You know what? That's
thermometer and all that stuff.
Yep. I'm with you. That's actually that's probably a better definition, because anything that happens hot side is going to get boiled, is going to get sanitized, or pasteurized. And then, anything that happens cold side, you need to sanitize. So that's actually a better definition. I'm good with that, Tim, for sure.
Good thing I'm here.
Yeah, I appreciate you, buddy. So the goal is to have no oxygen. So what do you do? The solution is to force beer from your fermenter into your keg with CO2 or nitrogen or argon or whatever you have available. All of us have containers of argon sitting around the basement.
Something obviously inert.
Yeah. So, and I was trying to pull a picture up on my phone. I didn't prepare for this part of the conversation probably as good as I should have, but for most sturdy fermenters that have a spigot on the bottom, you should be able to do a close transfer. You don't really need a lot of specialized equipment for it. Let me talk about it. Let me try to multitask and see if I can send a picture to myself while also talking about this. So the idea is generally that you want to feed some sort of gas that's not oxygen through the top of the fermenter to force beer out through the bottom. That beer will then travel through a tube into the liquid outpost of your keg. So, it's not like fucking raining down on the inside of your keg. And then slowly fill your keg up from the bottom upwards. You also want to purge your keg to have it, to make sure there's no oxygen in that keg first. So do you know where I'm going with this, Tim?
Yeah.
So go on with that for a half second if you could. I'm going to send myself an email.
So as long as you just you should purge your keg regardless if you're doing a closed transfer. I mean, I don't know. I usually sanitize mine and then just fill it up with like 10 psi with the lid on. But yeah, you make sure that the pressure in your fermenter is higher than your keg. And if you have to, you can always purge your keg because a lot of the CO2 will travel with your beer in. And when I did it, you could see it going down in the fermenter. And when that started to slow down, I would just pop the keg a little bit. But I was putting about eight on the fermenter, and then just whatever was already in the keg, probably 6 or 5 psi on the other one. And it took a little while. It took longer than an auto siphon, but the beer, the first time it touches oxygen is when it goes in a glass. So it's pretty cool.
Let me share my screen here. Let's see if I can do this. So the best way to purge a keg is to fill it with Star San, basically. And so ignore my like dirty ass floor, but the idea is that this keg right here, for those watching, I filled my keg up to the very brim with diluted Star San, per the bottling instructions. Put the lid on, and then put gas through this keg into this bucket down here until the entire keg was empty. At that point in time, that pretty much the entire keg is CO2 at that point. If you're not purging it with, liquid, if you're just trying to put gas in there and purge it and put gas in there and purge it, displacing it is so hard or inefficient or, maybe not even necessarily like, 100% effective. That filling it with something and purging it out with gas is probably going to be about as good as you can do. So once this keg was totally, empty, aside from the CO2 that I purged all the liquid out with, I then hooked my CO2 tank up to the top of my fermenter. This is just a spigot. I have a SS brew tank, SS brew tech fermenter that I can hook this tube up to either just to the top of a 3-piece airlock or to a elbow of the what's the word I'm looking for when you run a tube off into like a thing of liquid.
Your blow off.
Jeez, yeah, I've already had too much beer tonight, but
started with a wrist, man.
I know, dang. So you crank this up to maybe like 1 psi, and you open the bottom down here, and as the beer flows through, it's going in through the liquid outpost, and then gas is being displaced. And I have a tube that runs into that same bucket of Star San that I purchased the keg from earlier. And that way it ensures that no air is being taken back in because the tube is pretty much 100% right into the bucket. So
I do want to point out, because I think I want pictures of this up close. That put on your keg.
Yeah, that's a faucet.
That's a faucet.
This one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I literally have a faucet connected right to my
Gas.
My gas, and then I connect a tube to it. So I use the same setup if I'm taking samples from some of my sour kegs. I just hook a ball lock post up to it, stick it on one of my kegs, and just pull off a little sample of sour beer just to see how it's doing, how it's aging. It works really well.
Did you make that or buy that?
That's genius.
I bought it, but I think you can make it pretty easily. It's just it's basically
it's an adapter. Yeah,
it's like a zero length shank kind of like. Yeah, it's literally a shank that just doesn't have any like.
But then like the inner diameter is like the 1/4 inch,
Mm-hmm.
like for a swivel. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. So
what's with that filter in line there?
So this is actually meant for vacuums, but I adapted it for brewing, and they Bouncer makes something similar to this that's about the same size. One side of this tubing, and so I normally have this full. I purged that with gas first. That should just be CO2 in there, but one side of this goes adds liquid outside of this kind of mesh inner area here, and then the other side takes liquid from inside the mesh and pulls it through. You can swap whatever side. I'm not sure exactly what side is hooked up to what here, but the idea is that, and I've used this ever since I had issues with hop debris clogging my keg posts.
Oh yeah.
It's fucking terrible. I've had so many issues kegging New England IPAs until I started using this, but it catches just the little bits of shit that don't cold crash out and traps them and just lets all the liquid go through to the keg. So it's not even necessarily for like filtering to clarify. It's more just to help my transfer go smoothly. Ever since I started using this thing, I've not had a single problem kegging. The worst thing that's ever happened is that I had to stop my close transfer a little bit of the ways through and just rinse this mesh part off and resanitize it and add it back on just because it kind of got clogged with gunk. But highly recommend. So again, this is all gas down here. Gas is pushing all this beer through into this, CO2 filled tank. Beer is filling up from the top, displacing the rest of the CO2 into this bucket. It's going into my basement. I'm breathing it in. It's delicious. I have plants, that are eating it up. So, yeah. I use it for all of my beer now, regardless of style, unless I'm feeling particularly lazy. And I tried not to be lazy with my beer. It
happens.
It does happen. It absolutely happens.
Yeah.
So the issue there, though, is that you need a CO2 tank outside of your keezer, or you need to disconnect the one from your keezer. So
I think most people that keg have a tank that's just for force carving.
Yeah.
That they should have on hand.
I don't.
It's really useful. I would highly recommend it. Even if you just get like a spare 5-gallon tank or 5-pound tank, just to have as like a utility tank that you drag around your basement or brewery or whatever.
It's on my list of things to get as it has been for probably a couple of years, but Fermentation Chamber was next, which I just got up this weekend. So
nice, dude.
I'm going to be actually starting to control the temp. Not rolling the dice in the basement anymore. So
more lager boys.
That's exactly what it is. I got a Vienna in it right now. So.
Oh hell yes!
That's awesome.
I can't wait to try that. I'll be right back and get my beer.
Yep.
Yeah, no worries. Well, while Tim goes to get that, I think maybe one of the things that now we've talked about, bottling and kegging to start. Maybe we can talk about bottling off of a keg too, and just some of the the tools to do that for the competitions and stuff like that, and then we can kind of wrap it after that. But Tim was talking about the Blickman Beer Gun, I think is what he uses.
I've debated on one of those for a while.
So what, Tim, do you use a beer gun?
Yes, I do use the Blickman. Mine's version 1. I got it from a guy super cheap.
Old school.
Yep, but it works really well. There's a learning curve there. But you basically just hook up one post, one of those tubes hooks to your keg, to your beer out. You have to have a tank with a splitter, or you have to have 2 tanks. So you run CO2 to the gun, and you run CO2 to your keg that you're bottling with. And what you do is you take your bottles, and usually I just have them in a bucket, and I use cold sanitizer water because if the bottles are cold, they don't foam up as much.
Okay.
With the temperature.
Good to know.
And I dump the bottle out right there. And then what I usually do is I run the beer gun up, and there's a button for the beer to come out, and there's a button just for pure purging with CO2. I usually put the bottle upside down and purge with CO2 a little bit because that gets some of the extra star sand out.
Oh, yeah.
And then I flip it over and purge it for a little minute. And then once I think it's purged pretty well and the oxygen's on the bottle, you push the beer and you follow it up. And then I get to the top, and then I basically drop my bottling bucket, or drop the beer gun into a bucket, grab a cap real fast. I cap immediately. I don't do like 6 or 12 at a time and then cap them all. I cap everyone every time. I just have a bucket of star sand there that I can just drop the beer gun in. And then before I use it again for the next bottle, I'll purge a little bit out of the end to make sure there's no star sand in the end of it. And that's how I roll. It works really well. The bottles of beer have the same carb that you had in your keg. There's never an issue with that. I did run into a problem with infection though. So this Doppelbock that I'm drinking again, the previous batch of it I brewed was freaking killer. It was awesome. And I had it at my Oktoberfest party that I have every year. And it fucking slapped, man. It was awesome. And so I'm like, this beer, I'm going to get I was thinking I was going to hit low 40s in some competitions, get some golds with it.
Hell yeah.
And so I took keg and I bottled off like a 12-pack, and sent it out. And I started getting all this feedback. I sent it to the one up in, what's that brewery up in?
Stormcloud?
Stormcloud. And I got a 5 out of 10. Oh, good try. That was the comment. And I'm like, what the fuck? And they're like, oh yeah, acetaldehyde. And I'm like, oh, what? I didn't taste acetaldehyde in my beer. And then I got it back from Siciliano's, and I scored a 28. And they're like, oh yeah, you must have some kind of infection in here. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And I try it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is even close to the same beer. And it's because I had bottled Flanders Red with it.
Oh.
Did my normal clean routine, and it wasn't enough. So I ended up throwing out all of the hoses and stuff that I had and replacing them. And I took the gun completely apart and I baked it.
Yep. Cool.
Because mine doesn't have any plastic on it. That's the advantage of the V1.
Very cool.
V2 has a plastic housing and stuff. So,
okay.
So I baked it and killed everything and started over, and haven't had an issue since. But yeah, so that made me sad.
That is sad.
That my last 12 beers out of that, probably the best beer I ever made, was infected.
Womp.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear.
That's all right. This one's good. It's just not as good as that batch. You know how sometimes I think I did an actual triple decoction on that last one. And I think I pushed out and only did 2 on this one. So
I don't think I've ever done a double decoction. I think I've done a single a couple times ever.
Well, so
I've done singles.
The advantage of the triple is you actually step up all your temperature with it. So you're not just doing it for the Maillard reaction.
Yeah.
I started out
but your conversion was amazing.
Oh yeah, it was it tasted delicious. But it went. I just heated up everything to about 100, and then I did a decoction, got up to 130 for the protein rest, and then I did another concoction, got up to like 145 or 146, and then did another one and got it up to like 155. So I converted sugars for a good 20 minutes. And then got it up. So there was some short and long chains in there, which made it a really interesting beer.
Nice.
Right.
I did. I'll have to pick your brain on decoctions later because I've done it 3 times, but I've only ever done a single. I did one today. It was just short, but
it's challenging. Trying to hit your temps because it's that you're using that to hit zones, and it's not like. It's really stupid. I don't have to do that. I brew on a stainless pot with a false bottom. So if my temperature is not where I want it, I can just turn the freaking burner on. Like it's not a problem.
Yeah.
So I don't need to do them. I just really like the caramely flavors and stuff I get. Like this has 0 caramel malt in it. It's as caramely as a Scotch ale. So
I think there's something to be said for boiling the malt and stuff like that for. A little while. The cold IPA that I recently did, I did a single decoction on it, and I don't think it had nearly as any right to be as like flavorful malt wise as it was, even just using Pilsner and rice. Like it had like a little bit of something going on there.
Like maybe threw some victory or something there almost.
Yeah,
but he didn't.
Yeah.
Why'd you decoct an IPA?
Cold IPA, bro. You know the
Lager
style?
Boy IPA.
Oh,
it's IPL, right?
Well, right. Yeah.
Well,
it's the new fad term.
Yeah. We'll hit the style at the end of the episode.
I actually brewed one of those yesterday. So
perfect.
And I did a single decoction as well. So we actually. Probably the difference is hops.
I think it was hops because I
used. What'd you use?
Centennial, Mosaic, maybe, and I think some old school hop, like either a Cascade or a
Cluster or something.
Yeah, something like that. I'll have to remember.
Yeah. I used Centennial and Amarillo. So it was when I posted yesterday saying I want to brew, but I don't know what the hell to brew. And got some really good suggestions. I ended up doing yours because
there's that black IPA.
Yeah, his was like 75%. Like really intrigued. Mostly Munich.
Yeah.
And then rye, and then a little bit of Carafa. I'm like, I want to brew that.
Well, I tuned in first and give you a recipe where you didn't have to think about it. So
well, and I didn't have enough flaked rice, so I just used some minute rice in it. So we'll see.
And I think that's the same thing. Yeah. People use Quaker oats as like flaked oats. And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you have to do a cereal mash on the rice on the Quaker?
No, because I bought the minute, but I did a protein rest.
Okay.
So that kind of mimicked it, the cereal mash, and then I did decoct it too with the rice and everything in it. So some of the rice actually got boiled.
That sounds.
But my numbers came out money, so I converted sugar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
That's all you care about.
Yeah. No, I can't wait to try it. So Jordan, we'll go into it for like a couple minutes at the end of the episode. The other thing I wanted to bring up with regards to like bottling and packaging beer out of a keg is like counter pressure bottle filling. So something newer on the market as of like a couple of years ago is it's called a tap cooler. Like, have you guys heard of that or seen
heard of it? I haven't really looked into it much.
I think Brandon Edwards has one, and I have a couple because I keep my sour one and my normal one separate just because I'm a big baby like that. But essentially the idea is that when you bottle your beer, you can bottle it right off the tap. And I'm going to share my screen again for a second here. You hook this device up and it goes right into your faucet. It only works with forward sealing faucets as of right now, because that's just the way that the top here, that's the only kind of thing it fits in.
Yep. You're the one I heard this about from.
Yeah. So you put CO2 on the end over here. This one's barbed, but you can also get like a quick disconnect piece, so you can just kind of pop a CO2 tank right into it, not have to deal with like this barb connection. The other side of it has this spring-loaded piece with a little gasket on the end, so you can control how much gas is being let out of the filler. So the more open it is, the more gas is released, the faster the beer flows out of the faucet. So the idea is that you stick your beer onto this piece right here and purge it with gas, just like you would with a beer gun. So maybe give it like a good 3 seconds of gas or something like that.
And you just pop the.
Yep.
Is that how the beer comes out?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You give it some pressure and put it up against this rubber piece on the top here.
Oh, okay.
And you form a seal. And so then what I do is that I then pressurize the bottle up into roughly the point like that my keg is pressurized to. Or, maybe not that high, but you give it some pressure inside the bottle. And then you open up your faucet. And because the pressure is pretty much the same in the bottle as it is in your keg, the beer flows into your bottle at a really, pretty slow rate. You're not getting any foaming. And then it starts to displace the gas that then goes out the sort of PRV area over here. So it gets to the top, you kind of pull it off. It kind of gives this, pop, a little fizzy thing. You can top off the bottle with a little bit of beer, and you can make it foam a little bit so that you're capping on foam, and then you just cap it right off. And using one of these, you don't even have to take your beer off your faucet or off the out of your keys or your kegerator or whatever. You can just like stick this thing right up into a faucet and bottle right off of it. So again, just like the beer gun, you need a separate CO2 tank, but they're really awesome and they're cheaper than a beer gun. Beer guns are like $200 and these things are like $80. So
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Cost effective and pretty much the same concept.
It's better than a beer gun. So I used to have a beer gun and I loved my beer gun. But I still have, I never got the same level of, I don't know, beer waste. Like the foaming is just almost non-existent with these things. It's like how, I don't know if you've ever been to Bell's and watch how they fill up their growlers, or at least how they used to. I'm pretty sure they use counter pressure filling for their growlers too.
I've actually never seen it, believe it or not.
They slowly fill up the bottles from the bottom up. I guess it's the only way to fill up a growler, but if somebody can fill a growler from the top down, that's pretty fucking amazing. But no, it's
well, and anything that like this definitely seems like a better setup. My biggest bitch about bottling for competitions is it never tastes as good out of the bottle that I bottle as it does off tap. And it's like, it's disappointing because like, man, if I could just bring a growler to these people, like fill up a growler and hand it to them and have them taste it a half hour later, then the feedback would be better.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest bitch about competitions, man, is just the learning curve of getting back into bottling. And this thing's pretty cool. I don't know if it would work with my Perlix.
It would. Yeah, it should.
Yeah. Perlix are
forward sealing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. As long as they're not 500 series, I think it has to be a 600 or newer.
Because I bought one of those growler filler things. They're supposed to fit up in the faucet.
Yeah.
And it does not fit in them. So
is it that it doesn't fit, or are your O-rings too large?
It won't go in at all. They just won't go.
Because I had a very similar issue when I bought one of the growler fillers for my Perlic taps, but I bought a slightly smaller set of O-rings for it. Like they go around the piece that goes inside to create the seal, and that worked. It seals fine. The metal piece, at least, because I took the O-rings off. I'm like, did I just waste my money? But I was like, no, I've got up in there. Yeah, I was like, there's just plenty of room in there. So I just bought some smaller O-rings and put them on. It worked fine.
Try that. I still have it. I didn't throw it away or sell it or anything.
Well, I mean, they're like what, $8-9?
Yeah, well, I have.
So-
Those aren't the only faucets I have. I've got cheap Curl ones on that trash can jockey box I built, and I've got some other cheaper ones. I just had two nicer, older Perlick faucets. I figure I throw those on the kegerator I built because gotta be fancy.
Absolutely.
There's one other option too and this was my original way that I filled bottles with. And I won plenty of medals bottling beer this way. I think my first NHC regional medal was like a gold medal winning double IPA that I bottled with this thing. And it's the motherfucking Growler Filler.
Yep.
The piece of tubing on a tap attachment. And honestly, I think it works great. There's two big issues that I have with it. One is that you're never, like you said, Tim, you're never going to get the same carbonation level using something like this. You're always going to lose a little carbonation.
Yeah,
and
even if you seal it, it'll be like
a
growler. Where you want to drink that bitch in like a week.
I always tried to overcarb like my beer. I'd push it up like 5-10 psi for a day or so beforehand, just because when you're bottling on it, like I don't know if you guys did it, but I'd always pull my pressure down to like 2 psi or something inside the keg, to specifically just the bottle, so that way I'm not getting a crap ton of foam or anything. It's a real slow pour, but it helps. My biggest complaint with these guys is that's a girthy tube. That's you're left with a lot of head space, even if you fill that thing all the way up to the tippy top.
I always had problems with foam too, and a lot of waste. When I was filling bottles with these, at the end of the day, like I swear I would probably waste like 4 to 6 beers, like 12-ounce bottles, just off like foam and shit. I'm just trying to keep the level of carbonation I want. But it's cheap and it works. I also want to call out Gerald's thing here too. He says, I chill my keys at a 32-34. Then I use a party tap with a spring-loaded bottle filler. The cold beer holds the CO2 better, and then chill the bottles.
Interesting.
So everything cold, I'm assuming, Gerald, just to prevent foam as much as you can. I'm thinking that the line, or the not the line, what's the word I'm thinking of? Anyway, the little tube for the bottle filler is maybe like so thin that foam doesn't it's not that much of an issue. Tell me if that's right, because I've thought about that before, but I've always wondered like what the difference would be like, having something like this is the thing too. So my beer, I have 10-foot lines and I keep my keezer at close to 40. When I serve my beer, I serve most of my like normal ales and stuff like that at maybe like 15-16 psi, which is a little high. And I flow control taps too. I'm thinking most other people don't serve their beer at that high of pressure. So a lot of the issues that I have bottling stems from the way that I have my keezer set up. And I understand that I'm probably not doing it right.
If you're doing something right, man, because you make good beer and you got a lot of medals.
I do it my way and it works, but there is no right in brewing. Let's just say that, right? Like
no, it works for you.
Wrong.
You make
there's a wrong.
There is a wrong.
There are many wrongs.
Can I talk about that? Because that's one of my favorite things to talk about in brewing. So
what's wrong?
It's my philosophy and making beer. So my philosophy is that like when you're making a beer, it's going to be perfect to start off with. So bear with me here. When you make a beer, it's going to be perfect. But then you either don't do things, or you do things that can, that can detract from the quality of the beer, that slowly start deteriorating from the quality. Like, did you guys ever watch Seinfeld?
Of course.
Oh yeah.
So do you remember that episode when they were in the restaurant and I think it was Jerry, he put down the pile of money, and every time the server did something wrong, he deducted from the tip. Yeah. So that's how I feel brewing beer is. If you package in a way that's going to expose oxygen, you're taking away $1. If you don't pitch enough yeast, you're taking away $1. If you're not fermenting your beer at a good temperature, you're taking away $1. If you're not giving it, as much oxygen as it needs at the beginning, you're taking away $1. So my philosophy is very much like everybody can make like really amazing beer. It just, there's a lot of like small things that add up to make something amazing. And it's not that you necessarily have to hit everything right. You just have to do the least amount of wrong things.
Well, I mean, I agree with that, but also like recipes and like I've been to breweries where they don't make beer that sucks, but they don't make a single beer that you're like, oh, this is pretty good. Every beer is like meh, like there's no off flavors. There's nothing wrong. It's just like, oh, these guys are using the same grain bill on every beer, or
that's
using Cascade for everything, or this is a home brewer who didn't make the jump well to pro brewing. You know what I mean? So I agree with you, but you still have to have a good starting point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if I tried to make an IPA out of Munich 20, it would taste fucked up. If it was a smash with Munich 20, it'd be a good fucking dunkel. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yep. But, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Well, that's just, basic knowledge of styles and a good basis and understanding of what type of beer you're trying to brew. But I understand what Brian's trying to say is that, if that foundational knowledge is there, that, like, okay, well, I'm going to brew a Hefeweizen, and I know a Hefeweizen generally comprises of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Then, it doesn't matter, really the ratios matter a little bit. Maybe a Hefeweizen was a terrible example, but, you have numerous variations of that recipe that you can build out, pretty much, infinitely. But if you don't follow your post-process after, conversion and boil, your brew house process, if you will. I see what he's saying, because that's, and I'm faulty of that. Like I cut corners, and Brian, one of the things that you said earlier is don't open your fermenter. I'm a fuck it and tinker with it kind of guy. At least I used to be. And
stop doing that.
Yeah, I know. I really want to, but
you are the tilts target market.
Yes, I am.
Get
absolutely. So that way I can just sit there on my phone while 11:30 at night while I'm brewing.
Shit,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I honestly, like, looking back at times I've cut corners, I can't think of a time where I chin-seated out where I was like, oh yeah, that worked out pretty well. Like most of the time you're like, I shouldn't have. You know what I mean? Like you
totally.
look back like, I should have. Like the best lagers ever. I know Brandon likes to do the fast lager method, which is why his membership to the Lager Boys is on review. But
oh, okay. I need to know what this is now.
but when all the beers I make, where I lager traditionally, like I like to do a week for every gravity point. So this is a fucking 9% beer. So I keg this motherfucker and I don't drink it for 9 weeks.
Wow, you're patient.
Do you know what I mean? But
wow,
but it's just so much better. When you rush the lagers,
you're robbing from your future self.
Yeah, exactly. That Keller beer I brought to the meeting the other day, it had a little bit of diacetyl, and it's because I didn't let it.
I mean, those are supposed to be drank fresh, though.
They are, and so diacetyl is acceptable at the level that it was, but I just fucking hate it.
Okay.
So maybe Keller beers aren't my thing.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
All right, I'll be right back.
So yeah, so I'm like I said, my first lager, at least what I'm planning on as my first lager, is in the fermenter now. So it's I've got it coming down to temp, fermentation, fermentation temperature right now. I have yet to figure out like whether or not I'm going to try to do that, the fast lagering juggle.
Yeah.
Or I don't drink that much right now, at least not as much as I used to. So I may just fucking let it go. I mean, it's only going to be like a 5.5% beer. So
and
5 weeks.
And one thing I want to make sure you do though, and basically the fast lagering method, you just step up the temperature pretty fast.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get those clean yeast flavors early on in fermentation. So you step up your temperatures faster. I just don't do that. I'll do primary for 2 weeks at lager temp, so at 55 or 53 or whatever you're doing.
Okay.
Then I do step up. So I'll go up a couple degrees every day because I don't want to like shock it. Because one thing that you're not used to, since you're an ale guy, is lager strains can produce a lot more diacetyl.
Yes.
So you got to do that diacetyl rest. So I bring it up to, eventually I'll get it up to like 68 or 70 and I'll leave it for like 4 or 5 days. And then I cold crash it. And then I keg it. I don't do secondary for my lagers. I don't do secondary for anything.
I was gonna say I don't do like if I'm putting fruit or even the rare occasion I am dry hopping, I'm not doing it in the secondary. I'm just
no. Primary. So I used to have keg lids that I made that had grommets for airlocks.
Yeah.
So I used to cold crash and then rack into that and leave that just like at like basement temp for a couple weeks to do a secondary, but I don't even fucking do that anymore. I just keg it after I cold crash it, and usually I cold crash my lagers for like a week. It's just about being patient. I like when I have a pilsner and it looks like freaking Budweiser. You know what I mean?
Right.
How do we more patience? I don't have it. I'm jealous. I always rush all my beers.
Well, part of it, and maybe Jordan has this too, but you don't have children. Okay. So there's days, there's weeks where I don't even think about homebrewing because all I'm doing is like today, I spent 2 hours standing outside my front yard watching my kids ride their bikes up and down the sidewalk. Because my kids are pretty young, so they're not allowed to like go off on their own yet. They're not there. And it was just like, okay, like I could be doing some cellaring or cleaning something up or whatever, but no, I'm hanging out here with my kids, which is fine. I mean, I love my kids. I'm not I'm not blaming on them. But some of it's just like it's just like, oh shit, I cold crashed that. It's been in there for a week. Fuck, And some of it's because I have two different serving methods. I have a 2-tap kegger upstairs, which is really easy to get to. And it's awesome to have because if you've got a beer you're trying to get rid of, you kill it pretty fast because it's right in the dining room.
Yep.
But then I have like 7 more in the basement in a keezer, and I don't have faucets down there. I just have picnic servers.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times when I cold crash, I'll just throw the bucket or the carboy or whatever in some of the empty space in the keezer, and I just forget about it.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
I literally forget. It's not me going, okay, I'm going to cold crash this for a week. I'm going to be patient.
10 days exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I go, oh shit, that's still cold crash. And I could probably keg that. But then like, what's weird is like kegging, and we talked about bottling. I can keg a beer start to finish, clean out the keg. If I don't do the transfer, if I just do a normal rack and everything, it's like 20 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like even like cleaning out the fermenter and everything, or harvesting the yeast or whatever you're going to do with it. It's 20 minutes. And a lot of days it's just like, I don't have 20 minutes to keg a beer.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. I fully understand, man. I mean, my kid's, he's just about two in about 2 weeks. So he's a little terror, but yeah, I mean, I get it. Like the 2 ciders that I have on tap are from the fall. Cause like, I'm not gonna lie, like I absolutely love homebrewing. I don't have the time to sit down and spend. Like I took today off. I brewed 2 beers because I haven't brewed in a while. I was jonesing. I was getting that itch.
Yeah.
And I had my fermentation chamber up. I really wanted to try getting
Oh,
lager into it. Just jump right into the deep end. But yeah, man, I get it. It's kind of like a set it and forget it type thing, and that's why a lot of my shit, over the past 2 years or so, just pretty much just sat in my kegerator for a while. And
But like ciders and meads and stuff, that's okay. There's not.
Yeah, well, because as you said, like 20 minutes, like I come home with a bunch of cider and mix up the stuff together, cap it off, and off it goes. Meads is a little more, it requires a little more attention. But I mean, if I've got 2 meads going, it's not going to take much more than 15, 20 minutes at most for me to figure out, like, okay, well, I gotta measure out my nutrients and figure out what my schedule's at, what do I need to add today, measure that stuff out, dump it in, give it a mix, off it goes. That's if I'm taking my time. If I have everything pre-measured out, I can just dump, mix, off it goes.
And I brew most, like, especially in the last couple of years, I've been doing probably closer to 80 or 90% lagers, just because you can just kind of brew it and just like not worry about it.
Sure.
But I do have a schedule. Like this beer, I make a Maibach usually, and then use the yeast cake for this one. So it's a shit ton of yeast.
How many generations have you gone?
The most I've ever gone is 2. I'm afraid of like infection or, fucking it up. Go ahead. No, it's I know you're allowed, like some people say you can go like 10 or 11 generations without any mutations, but I don't know.
We're home brewers, and at that point, like 3470 is cheap, or whatever yeast you end up using for the most part. I mean, if you can get 2 batches off like a
$5 pack,
then
it's pretty good, or $6,
yeah. But did you, when I was gone, did you and Jordan go over what the lager boys were? I know he was asking.
No, we didn't really talk about lager boys. He was asking about like the fast lagering method.
Okay.
Yeah, he was asking about that.
Okay.
What's that? What was I asking about?
The fast lagering method.
Oh yeah.
I just made sure. I just gave him advice to make sure he does a diacetyl rest, because that's easy to forget.
I think the only time it's not a true lager. The only time I've ever tried to brew an actual lager, like in what have you, is using some of those fake strains, which isn't a true lager. It's just an ale that's cross-dressing as a lager. But at least that's my understanding.
I've never had a single Lutra beer that I have disliked in that I can like ever think of. But I've also never had one that I thought was like outstanding.
No, this is my problem with Lutra. It is so clean.
It is. It's boring as shit.
There's no character. And this is my problem. So like okay, so he made a Vienna, right? So your grain bill is probably mostly Vienna and some pills and maybe like a pound of Munich or something, right?
Yep. Okay. Pretty much exactly. Yeah.
All right. So when yours is done, that 3470, those malts are going to just be together in a beautiful marriage, and you're going to get a little bit of that yummy, spicy, biscuity from the Munich, which Munich is my favorite malt in the world. And if I ever have to want to eat malt, it's always Munich. It's fucking awesome. And then a little bit of toasty from that Vienna, and then pills. Oh, it's a little bit of sweetness, Just look at all those kind of go together. It'll make a nice, clean, it'll be somewhere between a Pils and a Märzen. It'll be an awesome beer.
Mm-hmm.
Lutra, you would drink it and you go, Munich, Vienna. You taste all of them separately. Like that's how I feel about Lutra.
Yeah, totally.
It's like it just everything shines too much, and it's like, oh fuck, this would be way better. Like if you like ketchup and mustard mixed together, delicious, like corn dog, but it doesn't taste like either of them. So that's kind of how I feel about Lutra. And honestly, like as long as you got temp control, making a lager, it's not that hard,
Sure.
You just got to do it.
like, and even 3470, like you were saying, is pretty forgiving.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And
I
it
know
still
that.
gives that nice, lagery sort of like very, very light sulfur sort of like thing. Like it gives it just that little bit of character
Yeah,
that you
like I said,
expect.
I brewed 2 beers with it. Well, 3 now. Yesterday I used it, and I've been very happy with it. I never really used it. I used their other lager strain, Safe Lager 23. Fucking hated it.
Mm.
I hate it. It just the finish is kind of not there, and the malt just comes out too much. Just not a fan of that. And then like White Lab strains always had a shit ton of sulfur. I used to have to lager those forever to get the sulfur to like die down and stuff. So the 3470, man, I like it. Brandon Edwards turned me on to that one.
He's a dry yeast master.
He is.
Yeah.
But I used it for a cold IPA yesterday. I used it for this Doppelbock. You just did it for a Vienna, and I think it lets the beer, shine through,
Perfect. You guys make me excited.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be a good beer.
It's you said not getting off topic here a little bit. I mean,
We're at the end of the show.
What is this?
Whatever.
Brian, you said you brewed a pale ale yesterday.
I did.
I'm curious. I brewed one today too. What'd you do?
So, and I was thinking about this the other day too. I'm like, I don't know if I've ever brewed a pale ale before. Like, it's always like IPA, double IPA, New England IPA. Like, this might be my first pale ale. So, I did. I actually have the recipe still pulled up, so I'm looking at it. 10 pounds of 2 row, just for Tim. A pound and a quarter of Munich. A pound of torrefied wheat. I've been on this torrefied wheat kick lately instead of like carafoam.
Yeah.
Like, I the last 2 beers I've brewed with it have just been like the head has been so like lacy and amazing. I'm just like, I don't know if it's the torrefied wheat, but I'm on the kick for now. And then like a half pound of C20. So like a really light orange. It's like 5.5 SRM beer.
Yeah, that's
and then
about where mine was.
I bittered with a little bit of Cascade.
Okay.
At 60 and 10. And then I whirlpooled with Cascade, Citra, and Mosaic, and then I'm going to dry hop with Cascade, Citra, and Mosaic. So a little New World pale ale, like little.
I'll be interesting to see because I'm not going to dry hop mine.
Okay. What hops did you use?
I bought a pack of Columbus from Bell's during their big sale.
Oh yeah.
So I bittered with, I want to say it was like 0.6 ounces of that. I didn't do a full hour boil. I think I was only at like 40 minutes on my boil. So my IBUs, I think for that capped out at about 50 to 55.
That's where I like it. I don't really like anything above that.
No, I'm with you. But then after that, I did within Whirlpool, I did 3 ounces of Calypso and then 2 ounces of El Dorado.
Dang. Okay.
So all that and
you did 5 ounces your Whirlpool.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep. Yeah, and I let that. Well, I guess at a hop rest or whatever, about 170 degrees, and let that sit for about 20 minutes. I did this. I did a very similar process like for this. This is a pale ale recipe I've made a few times. It's always worked out pretty well. But the grain bill. So I do 5 pounds Pilsner as the main base. Then I do 4 pounds of. Generally, I've done pale ale or just 2 row. But this time I swapped it out for Maris Otter because I've never used Maris Otter, and I just fucking
at all in anything.
Yeah, anything. Never used it. Period.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, never done it.
Man, you don't make any British beers?
I don't really either, to be fair. No,
oh, really?
Yeah. No, I've never done British beer. I love British beers, but I've never like ventured into that realm. I want to, but yeah, I've never used Maris Otter. So that was a brew day or like picking up my grains, decision. I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to use Maris Otter. Like, let's see. It's just adds a little extra color basically, or more or less. But then I have 1 pound of white wheat in that. 8 ounces of oats, and then 8 ounces of honey malt.
Honey malt instead of the C20. Yeah, it's basically.
Yep.
I don't. It's not the same thing, but yeah.
It'll
close.
do some of
Yeah.
that.
Yep. But
yeah, I've been I with you guys. I've been kind of getting off the Kara pills, Kara foam too, and using like wheat or other things, and it works. And it's like you actually get sugar out of your wheat and stuff. So
yep. And plus, it adds a little flavor. A little bit of backbone in that flavor there that helps support.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
The only thing that would make your pale ale better would be like 20% rye. That's all it needs.
Dude, I had to start using rye.
I have some rye down here because I bought some during that Bell sale. I was
I bought a shit ton of rye too. That's my favorite adjunct. So basically, I brew lagers and I brew beers of rye, and everything else I don't even fucking know. That's what I do. So I love rye and beer. Sometimes it works out really well. Sometimes not so much.
Right.
What yeast are you using for your pale ale?
So again, a brew day or picking up my ingredients, spur of the moment decision. I picked up what the fuck was it called? Cosmic Punch.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
do you know anything about that or no?
All I know is that it's I can't recall the term, but I know they thiolized. Yes. Yeah.
So it's English ale yeast that they thiolized.
Yeah. I remembered it from, and this is Michigan Brew's history. Remembered talking to his name's gonna escape me, but from Omega.
Lance.
Yeah, Lance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we talked a bit about their thiolized strains, and I saw that I was just like, you know what, like this is the first time I've brewed like beer and shit maybe a year. I don't know how long it's been, but I said, you know what, fuck it, what were
your hops again?
So it was Columbus for bittering, then Calypso and El Dorado. So Calypso is lemon, lime, and pear, and El Dorado is
like melon, right?
Yeah, it's got
pineapple.
Pineapple, pear, candy, watermelon. I think they threw in there or something like that. But
it'll be interesting because those thiolized yeasts, they pull all those yummy flavors that we like in like our mosaics and citrus. They pull them out of like yeasts that aren't well known for that. So like Saz, Cascade, you can get some of those like super fruity flavors. So I was wondering what that yeast will pull out of your bittering hop.
That's the one thing that's Columbus. I'd have to look at what they had, but Columbus isn't like super fruity. Usually, what is it that I bitter with? It's one of those clean ones. Warrior, I think it is, that I usually bitter with. At least that's what I have on this recipe.
Brandon said Calypso has a bunch of good oils for the thiolized yeast too.
I was just gonna ask. I think there's another one that people not dry hop. They mash hop with. It's either Columbus or Cascade or something like that.
Because the yeast pulls that shit out.
Yeah, they're so the science is they're glyostatically bound. Is that the word?
Sounds right.
Monoterpene alcohols. It's basically they're bound together and not able to be released into the liquid until like a particular enzyme comes through and starts like snipping things like how our alpha and beta amylase enzymes snip like sugars into smaller sugars and release them so that our yeast can eat them. This enzyme that the yeast produces, because it was genetically modified to do it, is supposed to release these thiols and stuff like that, and make the beer like smell more amazing and taste more amazing and stuff like. I think it's mostly like an aroma thing,
Yeah.
Is it
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Brandon shared a thing the other day. Apparently, Omega's got a phylized version of the Chico strain, which
I did see that.
could be.
Okay.
There's
styles in the malt too. So that's fucking crazy. I didn't even know
you
that.
need to have a phylized episode with Brandon Edwards.
Yeah. We have to.
He's vice
we
president of Water Boys, I think.
Oh shit. He
might
deserves
be.
it.
Either him or Bill. I haven't decided yet.
It's an appointed position.
No. We're a gang. We don't have positions.
But anyways, yeah, so that's we're gonna see where that turns out. The only
it's gonna be amazing.
Only thing that kind of worries me a little bit is on the packet they said mentioned something about biotransformation, which I think is primarily a dry hop aspect, which I'm not gonna do. And I'm personally not a huge fan of hazy beers. Like I like to see through my shit.
Cosmic juice. Hell yeah.
Hey,
this
yeah.
is the juice is loose with Cosmic Punch.
Oh shit.
That's cool.
All right.
I wasn't gonna crack another one, but I saw Brian still had half a beer. So
oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
I mean, I'll probably fill up again.
So Jordan, biotransformation is two things. And I've made so many fucking Reddit posts on this that it's like on the top of my mind all the time. So it's the transformation of like one compound to another, like I think it's geraniol to like citronellol, or maybe it's vice versa, I can't remember. But so just hops converting one compound like into another, or it's what we just talked about, the release of like monoterpene alcohols that are like glyostatically bound.
Okay. All right.
And then like, converted or whatever into the thiols and stuff like that. So a lot of people use the term biotransformation with regards to haze creation in New England IPAs. So
that's the only time I've ever really heard of it. So I'm learning something here.
It has nothing to do with haze creation. It just happens to usually occur when like a lot of that is happening. So like haze creation in New England IPAs is it's like I think what's it called, colloidal haze, that's formed from the binding of proteins from the malt and what am I thinking of? From proteins in the malt and something in the hops that I'm too drunk to remember right now. I know I just said that I like comment on this all the time, but anyway, it's basically these things forming and being in contact with each other for like not necessarily extended periods of time, but just like in the right conditions to then form this haze that really can't be unbound. So
unless it's been kicking around in a keg for a year.
I don't know, man. Not even necessarily then, I think, honestly. Like,
well, I'm just thinking of like commercial New England's. Like you go somewhere like, oh, you got a New England IPA and it looks like a West Coast, and you're like,
I've had that before where it was like, oh, this is it was some well-known brewery. I can't recall who it was. I mean, not that I would necessarily name names, but
no, you don't want to do that.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, it was someplace that they're like, oh, this is a New England IPA, and it came out, and I'm like, I can see right through this. Like that's not. I mean, it was like it kind of had the flavor, but I'm like,
I think there's like some pH stuff. Not to turn this into like a New England IPA episode, but like every
episode is. That's fine.
if you're brewing a New England IPA and you want like a more permanent haze, I swear this was like a game changer for me. Before you pitch your yeast, lower your pH, even if you just have to estimate it, down to maybe around like 4.8, 4.9 with some like lactic acid. I swear I have never had more permanent thick haze as I have as when I started to do that to my wort before my yeast pitch, to the point where like I don't know the science behind it. I read like the pro brewer forums occasionally, and like some of the brewers there, have they swear by it. And I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot, whatever.
Damn it, Brian. You reminded me something of reminded me of something I didn't do today.
Oh no.
You didn't Werflock it, did you?
No, I did. That shit was crystal fucking clear as it was going into like that's I don't skip that. No. Usually I test my pH as I'm mashing, and I did not do that today. So
it's whatever.
I did all my water adjustments. Did my water chemistry.
You're probably good.
But probably fine, but usually I like to try to get into
Did you hit your numbers?
Close.
Then you're probably fine. Like,
Yeah,
that's what your mash pH. That's what mostly affects your conversion.
Both came in about 2 points under what I was shooting for. So
pretty good.
Like, yeah.
Gerald says wheat causes the haze, right?
And, sure can.
It provides more proteins for the polyphenols from the hops to bind to, so it totally contributes. There is a point where too much wheat can have like negative impacts, though. Like the proteins will start binding to each other and start falling out of solution, which leaves less protein for polyphenols to bind to. So there is a point where it's too much, but like a pound or two is like more than enough, probably.
So that's interesting because Bell's Official Hazy is a pretty, I guess it's a good drinkable beer. I wouldn't like, if someone was like, oh, I want to try a hazy IPA for the first time, I wouldn't give them that one because I don't think that's like
which one?
A super official. And I did the kit of that one, and that was 50% wheat. So it's basically it's a wheat IPA.
Holy shit! Wow, I didn't realize it was that high.
It's not. Oh, I've got it. I saved it on my phone here. Let me see. It's at least like 40% pills, 40% wheat,
which
10% something else.
It's a good beer, but yeah, I don't think it's like a hazy.
And maybe that's why it's not as hazy, is because they use so much freaking wheat.
Yeah, so it's 5 pounds of pills, 5 pounds of wheat, and a pound of flaked oats. That was the grain bill for it.
Okay.
So super, super simple.
What are the hops in that beer?
It is. First edition is Flame Out. Amarillo Mosaic. Ounce of Amarillo Mosaic, half ounce of El Dorado, half ounce of Azaka. And then I did it as a whirlpool. I don't really do knockout hops.
I'm with you usually. Yep.
But then it was an ounce Mosaic, half ounce of El Dorado at the first dry hop, and the second dry hop was an ounce of Amarillo, ounce of Citra, ounce of Azaka. So
basically like hops they had left over, and they're just like, let's make a new beer, and yeah, it became official.
I like El Dorado. I've used the Azaka quite a bit, and I'm hit or miss on it.
Yeah,
it's kind of an odd hop in my opinion.
Yeah, I've ran into that with a few other hops too, where you're just like, yeah, it's all right. But it's got a bunch of yummy hops in it. And I want to tell you though, the Bell's Homebrew store, those people, when they put together those clone kits, they're pretty spot on.
Cool. Okay.
Like
I did it, and I finished a little lower than it was supposed to because I mashed a little too low. But it tasted pretty damn close to Bell's Official.
Get your kits while you still can. I was in the homebrew shop a couple days ago, and it was a sad situation.
Yeah, it's like they've downsized like to basically base malt and hops and yeast, right?
Yep. I got their very last bag of torrefied wheat, and I don't think they really had much else left in the way of like specialty malts.
Yeah, they didn't have. I was there Saturday, and they didn't have a whole lot. I mean, thankfully, none of the brews that I make really use anything odd. During their big sale, I did pick up some of the oddballs that I have used in the past. Like what is it? Like crisp brown malt. I've used.
Dude, I love brown malt and porters. It's
Yeah,
so good.
I've done it a few times in a just like a nice brown ale,
Mhm.
like a nut brown or something, and it's
Oh, hell yeah.
wonderful. So
Remind me to bring my bag of brown malt. I think that it's like a 1 pound bag to Big Brew Day, because I'm like the opposite. I'm not a fan of brown malt.
Oh yeah, I absolutely loved it.
It's such a particular flavor. It's like special B. It's like the special B of like mid, like.
And I wouldn't ever
mid-color
use
malts.
it for anything but like making a brown ale, like, or that's just me.
Yeah.
But I
See,
only picked up 2 pounds because I'm like, I'll maybe in the next 2 years I'll probably make 2 brown ales. Like that's probably it.
speaking of special B, if any of you motherfuckers need a special B, I had to buy a 5 pound bag to brew that fucking Russian
my
Imperial
God.
Stout.
What are you
because
gonna do with that much?
Because nobody had special B anywhere.
No. Where did you get a 5 pound bag even?
I had to order it through like Northern Brewer.
Oh no.
Jeez.
I don't do. That's one thing. I'm not a order online guy.
Yeah.
I like to go to my local homebrew shop, which is what sucks about Bell's. Downside, I mean, luckily we've got South County and Vicksburg.
Yeah.
But for me, they're hours. I have to I don't know. It's tough.
It's like in the middle of school and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can put together. They'll put together an order for you. You can pick up in the pub, at least.
I was gonna go to. I love South County. Like, love it absolutely. Where I'm at. It's literally like 10 minutes to either spot. I prefer to go down to South County. Not that I don't like Bell's, but driving downtown Kalamazoo can be infuriating.
Yeah.
Only reason why I went this time is because my sister lives just north of Bell's by a few miles, and I was going to pick up my dog, so I was planning on going to South County. So maybe I would have came out with some different choices, came out with some different beers, but since some of my choices were made the day of, but yeah, they did still have a lot of their specialty malts were still like 75% off. They had a number of yeasts still. I picked up 5 or 6 packs of Safale's wheat ale.
Oh, okay.
Can't remember what it is, but I mean, it's at like $1.75 or some shit like that generally, and they had it 75% off. So I'm like, oh, I'll pick up a few of them. It's like $1.
Yeah,
and just
it lasts for a year.
Yeah.
I just hope that they're switching to a specific distributor, and they're not going to carry Breeze and Muttons.
Okay.
And that's what I'm hoping.
That would be nice.
It's not that they're totally shutting out, because I mean, I know how you Kalamazoo fuckers are. Like, a lot of people are going to go, I'm not going to Vicksburg. I'm ordering online. That's what they're going to do. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I live in bumfuck Dowagiac.
I will drive to Vicksburg, but I know
I have to drive
everywhere,
anywhere. If I want groceries, I have to drive a half an hour. If I don't want to pay for family fare prices, you know what I mean?
I have order online twice for brewing stuff, and both times is because Jason bought out all the fucking dextrose in the county. So
I bought a shit ton of dextrose for $1 a pound from Bell's at the sale.
Brandon and I think we bought all the dry malt extract that they had.
Yeah, I should have gotten on that too.
Yeah, I should have done it.
I'm sitting on like 12 or 15 pounds in the basement right now.
Oh, Jeff's got some inside info.
Oh, right. Thanks, Jeff. So Bell's Homebrew stock will be back in a few months. Okay, so they're selling out of what they have right now, maybe, and then consolidating and maybe getting in very specific stuff.
So go get your cheap shit while you can. Pick up some weird stuff and use it.
You don't know how good that makes me feel. That's very not that I don't want to support Dane, because like he's my homebrew shop of choice when I can get out there. But like shit, if I need like a pack of yeast, like
Brandon's got all the golden light DME.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think? Anything more on kegging, bottling, any other good shit? We're on 2 hours. I don't want to take up any
No.
more your time or
No,
I think
I'm
we
good.
covered it all. Bottling sucks. Kegging rules.
yeah. So
But you always got a bottle.
you do always have to, you're never going to get away from bottling. And again, I highly encourage entering competitions. We bitched about Sicilianos a little bit tonight. The feedback may not be perfect, but I think
It's
that
still feedback.
No,
it's still feedback.
I want to make
Um,
sure, like, yeah, you get feedback, and I'm gonna get a medal.
Yep.
In the mail. Well, actually, no, Ron got it for us.
Yeah.
And I actually emailed Steve back and said thanks for doing this. Like, we appreciate it. His Siciliano's homebrew store is fucking awesome.
Yep.
Like they have extract on tap.
It's not going to be Steve for much longer.
No, this is selling it, right?
Yep. But still, the new owners say they're not going to change a whole lot, and they're young and they seem cool. So TBD.
You know, but they got an awesome bottle shop there too. So I mean, it's a good spot. So
Tim and myself, and I think like 9 others are also part of a group right now that are working on getting BJCP certified. We are working on creating a sort of group in Southwest Michigan that will be able to like serve maybe the greater area in judging a little bit better than like what's going on right now.
yeah.
I think that.
Have I missed something on that?
Yeah, you weren't at the meeting.
Oh yeah, maybe you did. I'll talk to you about it later, Jordan.
Was it in? Okay, yeah.
Yep, we haven't actually done anything yet, so it's
no, and I haven't even taken the online test yet. I'm still I can't take. I get to work like 2.5 hours early every day, and I can't do anything on BJCP because it gets blocked with the filters with the beer stuff.
Cool.
So
yeah, super helpful. Yeah.
So I have to take it at home,
Okay.
and then I've got all this stuff going on. Usually.
But if anybody is listening and they're in Southwest Michigan and they're not in our homebrew club, hit us up, Michigan Brews, and I'll invite you to the group. We're focusing right now on getting everybody past the online exam, and then we've had 2 National Plus judges volunteer to hold tasting exams for us sometime in the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to drive down to like Cleveland, Ohio or something like that to take an exam. We can do it, somewhere in the Southwest Michigan area. So
damn, when was the meeting?
It was at the Brewery Outre 2 meetings ago.
Oh, yeah.
I might have posted about it on the Keepers page too, but don't worry about it. I'll talk to you about it.
But yeah, the logic is if you don't want shitty feedback, then go out there and do a good job, judge
exactly.
beer, and then it comes around.
Yep.
Just like jury duty. Don't turn down jury duty. Don't act racist because you need someone on your jury someday to not suck.
There we go. Words to live by from Tim Wickland, Lager Boys.
And the more people that we give good feedback to, they're going to start making better beer. They're going to want to, like you said, they're going to want to maybe judge someday. And really the whole homebrew community in general is going to grow. Like I want to see like national homebrew competition, like national winners being like 50% Michigan brewers, one day or something like that.
Yeah.
I want to fucking like be a virus of like good beer, like feedback that just spreads the market throughout the state. Yeah. So,
well, talking about our Siciliano sheets, one of my sheets was a BJCP judge, and the other one was not at all.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows who it was? It was a volunteer because they didn't have enough people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? Totally.
And someone who was not trained and took away points for something they're not supposed to because they didn't know.
And this isn't saying that BJCP trained judges have like great palates or anything like that, but there's a certain standard for the way that feedback is given.
Yes.
That really makes it more helpful.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get feedback that's like, was this you? Somebody got feedback today that was like good beer, but not great.
It was good, but nothing about it is great.
There's nothing fucking helpful about that.
I know. So, like the whole point is like, how can my beer be better? And both of my sheets, like I agreed with some of the comments and stuff, but there wasn't a single thing on my sheets that made me think, oh, I need to tweak this. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
So,
see, that's a little bit of a problem with for the competitions too, and maybe the competition organizers need to help hammer this back as well. Because if I submit to a competition and I don't get good feedback, I'm less inclined to enter that in the future.
but the competition organizers, unless they're BJCP certified themselves, don't understand that. So,
well, I mean, maybe it's just an awareness thing. Like
it totally
necessarily have to be BJCP certified, but they could just be aware of the fact of the feedback standards and help ensure that they're getting people who are going to give that feedback properly about the beer.
We just gotta get good judges out there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in the end, though, the best way to counter it is just to flood the market with people that they'll give preference to.
Yeah, because I don't know. I don't think my palate's amazing, but
mine either.
But I know that I'm confident that if I learn the method, that I could drink a beer. Someone's got a Schwartz beer, and I could give them comments based on the style guidelines and be like, "Oh yeah, this seems a little too roasty," or whatever. You know what I mean? Like maybe back off your roasted malts or whatever.
Yep.
Or your dark malts. I could do that, and then they could take their beer and tweak it a little bit and make it better. You know
and a lot of it comes from experience too, of brewing beer. Like, oh yeah, I made a beer that tasted like this once, and I'm pretty sure it's because I did this. Too. And I think we're probably, honestly, one of the most actively brewing homebrew clubs in Michigan right now. Like, we're homebrew club of the year in Michigan, as of last year. But I feel like in terms of members actively pumping out beers, we're really, really active.
Yeah,
like we have a lot of brewers making a lot of beer, and not a lot of clubs are like that.
Yeah, I feel like Brandon's probably up to batch like 27 by now.
Yeah,
for 2022.
Jesus, I remember my years like that before I had a kid.
You know what though? I've got 2 kids, man, and I did my 8th batch yesterday in April.
I'll get there.
I brewed 24 last year. I think I brewed 30 the year before, but I was also off 3 months early last year or 2 years ago. Because
how old are your kids?
6 and 4.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that would make sense.
You just gotta make it. And my kids, they've grown up around it. So when I'm brewing a beer, they're out in the backyard on the swing set or whatever, hanging out.
I'm chalking it up to being a new parent. We're both kind of settling into how to hold on to our hobbies while we're raising a kid.
I know it's a tough balance, but also like for me, a lot of times I get inspired. Like I'll have a beer somewhere. Like we were in Denver and we went to Great Divide. They brew Yeti. They're stout, and they had a Bananas Foster variant of it, and Connie loved it. And I was kind of, man, I'm not a rum cinnamon kind of guy. But like she's gonna try to brew it, and we're gonna figure out how to add banana and cinnamon and rum to a beer without fucking it up, So she's inspired because of that beer,
On that aspect, I'm gonna go again. I've drank, so I'm going on tangents. But you guys being out in Colorado, did the altitude hit you guys hard when drinking?
So it did. We drank a shit ton of water. We also walked a lot. So the second day we were up there, we walked about 11 miles.
Yeah.
We were just walking everywhere. It did hit us, but we were all right. There was one day where we started drinking at 7:30 in the morning.
Oh shit!
And got home, got back to the hotel at 11. So we were out all day. We started with some Bloody Marys for breakfast at a spot. And
maybe it was just like, I guess. So my thing is like, my wife and I honeymooned out in Colorado, and I remember our second day out there, we went out to a brewery in Colorado Springs. The name's escaping me because I was drunk as shit by the time we left that place, and I only had 3 beers, and they were like 3 5%ers. I don't know what happened, but like Andrea had 2 beers, and she's like, "I'm okay. I'll drive home." And I'm like, "I can't walk."
So we didn't have a car So we just walked everywhere, or Lyft or Uber, and we just, like I said, I drank a glass of water with every pint the whole time I was there, and it really helped. No, I gained 10 pounds in 4 days. And it could have been I was retaining water. I don't know. But the people always talk about the mountains and stuff. We didn't have any problems really in Colorado or in Denver, but we went up in the mountains on one day and we were like hiking. It was insane. Like you're just like, you feel like it was almost like I was having an asthma attack.
Oh,
Like I just felt like my lungs were like, and they're burning. And what was crazy is my wife and I are both in pretty good cardio shape right now. So we were like, right after we were fine. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, it's just they got more red blood cells, more hemoglobin than you do carry around oxygen. Since they live at such high altitude. But my wife and I had the same problem. As we hiked up to it was a place called Sky Pond. It was like a 7-mile hike one way. It was rough. It took us about 10 and a half hours to go there and back. But like
it sounds awful.
No, it was gorgeous. It was wonderful. But I shit you not, like 3/4 of the way there, and we started at like 7 a.m. And it had taken us. This is probably like 11 o'clock or something like that, like 3/4 of the way there, because we stopped at a few different spots and whatnot. This 80-year-old woman just comes fucking huffing right by us. Like she stops at the rocks right next, just a little ways from us, and we're like crawling up to her, and we're just like sitting here like, how are you doing this? She's like, I've been living here for like 60 years. I'm like, how old are you? She's like, I'm 82 this year. I'm like,
oh my God.
And like, she was there for like 5 minutes, and then up she went and off she goes. So I'm like, I don't like, we're not even in our 30s. Just like, oh.
That's awesome.
It was amazing, but it was also kind of like, made me feel like I just was not in shape, but that's what it is.
Sobering. It is. Yeah, we went up to the Red Rocks Amphitheater and hiked that, and there's people like doing fucking burpees and shit on it, and we're like just like walking. That's crazy.
Yep.
But I want to tell you, the beer was good, but I think the highlight of the trip was there's 2 Voodoo Donuts right in downtown, and
there's 2 now.
There's 2. There's one on Colfax and there's one on South Broadway, south of downtown a little ways.
I think when we were there was only the one on Colfax.
Yeah, we went to both of them. That's how good we were. And I want to tell you, Sweetwater's donuts are good, but my Voodoo Donuts, man. And they were like we bought an extra donut and had it in the morning, and it still tasted fresh. It was like, that was money. That's probably where 3 of my 10 pounds came from.
All right. I'll stop detracting. I got nothing left. We're 2 hours and almost 15 minutes in.
Yeah, that was a long one.
Well, appreciate you joining us, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah. Let me just quick plug. If anybody in the Keepers of Craft Club, this is not for anybody who's not in the club, wants to be in the Lager Boys. Just step up your lager game. 25% is the threshold. You can be in. We're like the NWO Wolfpack.
Okay. Is that like when they were red or white?
Red and black.
Red and black, is that? Okay.
Yeah, I really want Shayna to make us some of those KOC shirts, but have it be a red print. Ooh. And then have Lager Boys on the back.
I was just gonna say, can we get hats or something like that? Like your ham set?
We'll figure it out.
Obviously, I just know we need tank tops for Homebrew Fest. I'm
all for it.
I'm gonna have to lose some moobs here before I can.
You can do it. I need to do that because I gotta show off my new tat. So
hey,
beautiful. Transformers. I
also
still gotta get color.
I want to call you out, Tim. Thank you for repping that shirt. It's been hiding below the cam, but he's repping the Michigan Brew shirt tonight. So thank you for that.
I love the shirt. It's actually super comfy.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. I don't think we're having an episode next week, but the week after will be a recap episode for our the Keepers Big Brew Day brew off. So At the very least, like it'll probably be me, Jason, and Jordan, provided we're all in town, and hopefully maybe we can have a few other keepers. And Tim, you're more than definitely welcome back, and we'll try to figure it out. Not sure about the week after that. Sometime near the end of May, we're going to have a recap episode for the second Big Brew Day that we talked about earlier, where we're going to Rochester Mills. And then we have some guests and other stuff scheduled for like June and July. So, yeah, appreciate everybody that's still hanging out with us, talking. Tim, I appreciate you here.
Hey,
if you're
thanks for
watching
having
this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you're listening to us on a podcast, please go ahead and give us a rating. Even if you think we suck, we'll appreciate the feedback regardless. And if you think we're awesome, then the higher scores help us get found on the podcast software, and more people can listen to our beautiful voices. So,
hey, I'm going to rate this podcast. This podcast is good, but nothing about it is great.
That is
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%. So. All right, guys. Well, thank you again, and everybody have a good night, and we'll catch you later.